Only the worthy will survive.
Andros, a prisoner. Philip's War was no sooner over than another danger appeared. Charles II and James I intended to revoke the charter rights of the colonies and make them royal provinces. Connecticut, alarmed, hid her charter in an oak tree, but even she submitted when Edmund Andros arrived in 1688. As the royal governor, his harsh rule, carried on in defiance of charter rights, although it was a short one. For when James was overthrown in England, the people rose and put Andros in jail. Bluff Creek Bigfoot. In the history of the natural world to the supernatural, I found many weird things. But just because I don't know what it is doesn't make it supernatural. While the true heart of science is to always question even yourself. In the end, I have become an objective atheist. I am an atheist, but I want there to be more. Now, before we go too deeply into this encounter, which is known more by other names, I will mention the sightings of the Bluff Creek Bigfoot began long before its more memorable sighting. Even the Indians in the area speak of Bigfoots in that area. And many sightings by other campers and loggers is what led to the pair of people known as Patterson and Gimlin to catch their legendary filmed sighting. It is also known as the Patterson Film or the PGF. This is a short and famous motion picture, or you could call it a clip, of an unidentified subject the filmmaker said was Bigfoot. The footage was shot in 1967. And has since been the subject to many attempts to authenticate it or debunk it. Footage was filmed alongside Bluff Creek, a tributary of the Klamath River. The film site is roughly 38 miles south of Oregon and 18 miles east of the Pacific Ocean. The film alleges to depict a large female Bigfoot known informally as Patty, as is looking back at Patterson and Gimlin. In the early afternoon of Friday, October 20th, Patterson and Gimlin were riding generally northeast, upstream, on horseback, along the East River of the Bluff Creek. At sometime between 1:15 and 1:40 p.m., they came to an overturned tree with a large root system at a turn in a creek almost as high as a room. When they rounded it, there was a log jam left over from the flood of '64, and then they spotted a figure behind it. Nearly simultaneously, it was either crouching beside the creek to their left or standing there. On the opposite bank, Gimlin later described himself in a mild state of shock after first seeing the figure. The figure had walked away from them to a distance of about 120 feet before Patterson began to run after it. The resulting film is initially quite shaky until Patterson got about 80 feet from the figure. At that point, the figure glanced over its right shoulder at the men, and Patterson fell to his knees. To researcher John Green, Patterson would later characterize the creature's expression as one of contempt and disgust. You know, that's just the way it felt. Shortly after this point, the steady middle portion of the film begins, containing the famous look back. Patterson had turned a total of about 3 times. The other times, therefore, being before the film began and or while he was running with his finger off the trigger. Shortly after glancing over its shoulder on film, the creature disappeared behind a grove of trees for about 14 seconds. Then reappeared in the film's final 15 seconds. After Peterson moved about 10 feet to a better vantage point, fading into the trees again and being lost to view at a distance about 265 feet as the reel of film ran out. Keep in mind the average film at the time can only run about, up to 15 minutes if you bought the big reel. Gimlin remounted, followed it on horseback, keeping his distance until it disappeared around a bend in the road 300 yards away. Peterson called back to him at this point, feeling vulnerable, on foot without a rifle, because he feared for the creatures might return and might be angry. The entire encounter had lasted less than 2 minutes. Next, Gimlin and Patterson rounded up Patterson's horse, which had run off in the opposite direction downstream. Before the filming began, Patterson got his second roll of film from his saddlebag and filmed the tracks. Then the men tracked Patty for either 1 or 3 miles, but then lost it in the heavy undergrowth. They went to their campsite 3 miles south, picked up plaster, returned to the initial site, measured the creature's step length, and made 2, one in each of the best quality right and left prints. Patterson-Gimlin film was relatively little interest for mainstream scientists. Statements of scientists who viewed the film at a screening or who conducted a study are reprinted in Chris Murphy's Bigfoot Film Journal, and that's about the bare bones of the case. It's been on multiple shows since then, so it's not really a lot to add, except for this. I believe it was real. I remember when I was a kid and they showed it on the news. First time over there, and I lived in Seattle area. Thought that's it. Its quality is way beyond that of the film industries at the time. Films wished they were that good. And these two weren't. They were great explorers, living out there in the woods, campers. But they didn't have the ability to make these costumes, nor did they even know who to get a hold of to have it done for them. None of them either made the money to have done so. And if you've ever tried to film something out in the middle of nowhere, it's really difficult quick. Where the most incredible costuming and crews of people and equipment can still end up looking like crap. But these two alone, or even if they secretly had a group of people they could have afforded, They couldn't have afforded too great a people. And if they had, those people would have used it on a resume sooner or later. So even if it was a hoax, a person would have been out, it would have been out of their price range. I've tried to film, and it becomes a nightmare quickly. But I'm simply content, because I've heard all the hoax reasons and their explanations. And half the time, their explanations to me seem as much as proof as they say it's not. Simply put, I believe this is simply video proof of Bigfoot. Thank you. Battle of Bunker Hill. On June 16th, the Americans forfeited Bunker and Breed's Hills overlooking Boston. Gage's besieged position in the city was now more than ever insecure. His troops attacked the next day, but were twice driven back by the defenders, who withheld their fire until you see the whites in their eyes. Such was the practice of good frontiers marksmen. On the third charge of the Americans, their ammunition exhausted, retired, and in the end, the British carried the hill, but the moral effect of the strong American defense against the able and well-trained troops was great. Battle of Lexington. In addition to the stores at Concord, the object of the British was the arrest of the radicals of Samuel Adams and John Hancock. When the columns arrived at Lexington shortly after dawn on April 19th, about 100 militia opposed them. There was a shot, then a volley, and the colonists fled, leaving 8 dead. The British lost not a man. The military significance of Lexington was infinitesimal. Its political significance was, and still is, stupendous.
I swear by the time this is over, they will be thanking you. You'll see. This will be an easy one. Besides that, the mom's a total milf.
I'm looking out here, but I don't see a thing. Oh, except no one put a tarp over the car. You know those old gas burners rust in the rain. Why do I bother? I'll never know. Tell you about the next unlimited metahuman fight, and you tell me you heard a sound. Check, you say. Done. Next time you just say you don't want to talk. Not this make Mike look stupid game. If I try and sit and talk nicely, see what happens? I hope you're happy.
You know, I still think you should sell that old car and get the last operation done. That would finish the implantation, a little facial reconstruction, and it's done.
If you're done here, won't you go get some dinner cooking? I'm starving here.
Just fine, I'll go get your dinner going, but we are finishing this conversation later.
What do I care about how I look? I'm already married. Too late now.
What's for dinner, Mom?
Grilled cheese, honey, now go back. Grilled cheese, honey, now go back to your room.
My little girl, won't you come and watch TV with Daddy?
I have to go clean my room. Maybe later, Dad, okay?
Suhan, I'll be busy for about an hour, so take your time. No hurry for me. Misty, my sweet thing, time for some daddy time.
Is it like he says? Like he says it is? Are they calling you my death?
You know, I hate to agree with old Leatherface, but it's that and more. The poster children for the Just Kill Me Club.
What the? You two agreeing? Weird. Hey, let's celebrate. Oh, you better believe I'm gonna celebrate. Just let me deliver them after I play with them for a while. I know to play with my food. Hopefully I also have some beer.
Bring me all three of those souls, for their own sake, for even the victims will only spread their pain. Odd. For once, tears not shed because of you. Tears that aren't from fear, but of love. Only love lost can hurt like that. Believe me, I know. More exactly, love betrayed. Her love has already hurt her more than you can. You're just here to finish the job.
Shh, my darling. I'm here to take you from this pain. You've suffered enough, and my lady has sent me to end it for you. I am to deliver you from here.
But my darling Misty, my baby, what of her? She deserves better than this. Will you leave her?
Yes, you're right. She deserves better. But you failed to do so. But I ask, why leave her? Hasn't she suffered enough? Maybe even more than you. I'll tell you what, I'll make it easy for you. No knife. Not as fun, but your husband's sledge here will make it quick. No more fun than an execution, just quick. If you put your head down on the table, then you're free. Do it quietly, and he will not get a warning. Scream, and he will get a warning. And you set free, and you get revenge against him. Don't worry, I'll talk to him about leaving his tools out. Well, at least I will, unless you warn him. You could even maybe scream and run for it. You might make it or get away in the confusion. What do you want? The choice is yours. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Daddy's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird does sing, Daddy will never buy you anything. Now to get to work. That was nice of her. No damage to the arms and legs. Good.
LaSalle claims the Mississippi. LaSalle completed Marquette's work. Although undoubtedly a visionary, he was the first to grasp the magnificent idea of a great French empire in the interior of the Americas. In the time of the Great Frontenac, the finest governor New France ever enjoyed, LaSalle headed for the Mississippi, which he appreciated was the key to the imaginary empire. He reached the Gulf in 1682, and being assured by the Indians he was the first white man to explore the river, claimed its valley for the King of France.
Do not deny me.
Hello, and if you've enjoyed some of our work that you've seen here, please do me a favor and click there over on Patreon corner, and you can see you can become a patron, and for like $1 a month you can give me input on anything that you think would be good to continue on. So we do so much different things, and it's hard to see what people want to see next, so become a contributor as well as have an opinion on what we do next. Thank you.
I would appreciate if you could please go over and click on the subscribe and hit the notification so you can know next time we have something new coming on. And sorry for the interruption, but back to the show.
LaSalle. The next year, LaSalle was in France. His plan was to settle Louisiana, and an expedition was fitted out for him. But his ships missing the Delta took him far to the west of Mississippi. He spent the last months of 1685 in Texas, vainly searching for his beloved river. He finally gave up in 1687 and turned north. His men were grumbling at the rigorous manner in which he ruled them, and finally, one of the company killed him by shooting him in the back.
The State House. Although the French and Indian Wars upset the borders, life in and around Philadelphia continued peaceful and prosperous up to the Revolution, in comparison with the disturbances in the other colonies. Despite quarrels from Penn's heirs, relations with the proprietors in England were fairly amiable. The city's landmark was the State House, later Independence Hall, built between 1731 and 1751. In the additions to it, built around 1791, sat the Supreme Court and the Congress.